going on, guys? Welcome to our new episode of Shahs and King. Out here with your boy Shaheen, Keith, Weapon X, aka Farnoosh. Well, it's actually Farnoosh, aka Weapon X. But today,
It's okay.
we
Some people call me asshole. It's all right.
some people don't some people call you like Fred?
Yes.
White
As a matter of fact, a great
fucking
deal of
white
people
people.
call
I
me
swear
that.
to God. Anyway, so
Hey, you know what? I don't care what people call me. But the thing is that I will say this, and I'll say this on
oh,
air.
if people call me Fred, I'd have a problem with that, bro.
I
Yeah,
don't
okay, Sean.
because
No.
it is my name. It actually is. It actually is legally my name. And number two,
Uh,
the reason I also don't have a problem is I hate when people butcher my name. I have a pet peeve. So if you can say it properly, like Keith has eloquently done numerous times, then I'm good with it. If you're gonna butcher it, I'd rather not hear you say it at all. Just stick
Just
with Fred, and we can
stick
have
with
a happy
Fred. All
day.
right, fair enough. All right, so anyway, guys, today we decided to talk about art. Um, and not too specific, like what we. It's basically we kind of want to talk about the art that influenced each one of us, the three of us, and I know a lot of you guys can relate to it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell that bell icon, because we're gonna talk about a lot of shit like this. So anyway, obviously, me as a rapper, Weapon X as a rapper, and Keith as a, he lifts, and you can
as a
argue that
sportsman,
you can argue that, like, in a way, like, that's an art form itself. Lifting your body is an art. Your body's a canvas, and whatever, I don't know.
You
Anyway,
are still an athlete.
as you can tell from my shoulders, I lift.
no, I mean, even if you're not an look, even if you're not an artist, even if you're an athlete, like, chances are you still have art that
Inspirations.
influences you. You
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
there's music that you listen to pump you up. There might be movies you watch that pump you up. You so I mean, like, everyone's influenced by art in some sort of way. I think, as we know, we like to shit on people who make art, yet as as a society, I think we're addicted to art. We're addicted to, we listen to music on the car rides home. We binge watch Netflix series. We're constantly consuming content on our phones through Instagram, where
Some of us
people are
still read books.
some of us read books. Like, that's an art form too. So
Yep. Literary
uh
art.
as much as we like to shit on people who get art degrees, or people, we like to trash people who try to pursue art as a living. We have to, we tend to forget that art influences us. We go to a fucking Starbucks, and we see a picture on the cup. We see fucking, there's music playing in the background. um Art is basically the reason why we live, as corny as it sounds. But art, if you wanted to, we'll start with me. When I was in school, I wasn't really the cool kid in school, and I wasn't really the most confident guy um, in the world when I was in school, right? When I was, like, in middle school and high school. And I wasn't really exposed to hip hop at the time. Like, at that time, I'd be listening to, like, System of a Down, and I thought it was cool, and I didn't even really understand, like, what the lyrics meant at the time, but I thought it was really cool anyway. But I remember, like, I think it was like the summer after my eighth grade, so I was probably like around 13 or 14 years old, and one of my friends introduced me to Ti. And it was like his like single "Big Shit Poppin' and Low Shit Stoppin', Big Shit Poppin'." Do you guys remember that song? And
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
do.
I
I
don't
do.
know what it
I do.
was. Like, I fucked with it so hard. I had that shit on repeat. And I'm like, and then, like, after I like play that song like 500 times, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can like rap music. You never know. And I think the reason why that it stuck out to me so much was because Ti was a dude who, like, just displayed so much confidence in his music, like, self love, and, like, he's like, I'm the shit, like, big shit popping, low shit stopping. And as a kid who didn't really have that, um, like, I'd be listening to that, and I'd feel good. You know what I mean? Like, I'd feel like a boss. Like, I'd feel like a kingpin Ti, like king of the South, even though I'm like a Persian kid living in upper middle class Connecticut, and yeah, it really affected me and inspired me to like really get into like listen like not start rapping yet, but just like into hip hop music and rap. And eventually I started listening to Eminem more, and it's funny because these two guys on here were like, "Yo, Sean's gonna talk about Eminem," like before, yeah. But yeah, listen, like Eminem, like he I resonated with him a lot. He not only did he inspire me musically as an artist, but personally, um, in a way where he he was like a role model, in a fucked up way. Like I connected with his anger because Eminem, like me, like he wasn't the cool kid in school. Like he had problems getting like making friends, people not being nice to him, relationship issues, just connecting with people overall. And then like Eminem expressed that anger so well that I don't know, it really just it tapped into my own anger, and I felt I don't really have the words for it. I became addicted to it, and in a way, like I kind of became Stan. And not in a creepy way, but like yeah, like I became like a huge fan. I listened to like every single song, every album, even his like shit that he had before he was famous, like the Infinite, Slim Shady EP, even the shit before that. I would listen to like some of his songs that were never really officially released. Um, and I think like his don't give a fuck attitude really just kind of um, helped me to not give a fuck about what people think about me. And then and then eventually, like as I developed a passion for the craft of hip hop and rap, uh, obviously like Eminem was a huge part of the influence. And because I think to this day, I don't think in hip hop or in rap music there's no one who loves the art of rap than Eminem. Like he's the man is so obsessed with just words and dictionaries and just like being able to manipulate words that like no other rapper really cares about. Like with other rappers, it's more about um, just basically. I mean, like they're more focused on the musical component of it, which is fine. But hey, mom, oh, whatever, I'll edit it out. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah.
You lose your train of thought there, huh?
Yeah. Nah, so I mean, like, when it comes to art, it, obviously, like, if you're an artist, it's gonna influence, you're gonna be influenced by other art, but I think for other people, it really can just, move you in positive ways. Me as a music, I'm not only like influenced by like music, but even like certain movies I watch, shows that I watch, um, books that I read. And for some people, like, look, like a lot of people are religious, they're attached to some type of religion. And, you know, you could argue that the whoever wrote these holy books were artists in some type of way. They wrote stories that moved people. And unfortunately, it had catastrophic consequences for the world. But, um, like art does that. And you can use this to sort of uh, help you in your personal journey, whatever the fuck that is.
Okay.
So
Well, specifically then, um, I direct this towards you, Shaheen. How did this translate as you were listening to Eminem, or in the case we're talking about Eminem? How did it translate towards not just your musical journey, but like your personal life? What did you gain out of it, and how did it help you grow? How did his music help you grow?
yeah, like I mean, like Eminem was like the pissed off dude who made it. So like to me that was like a big deal. Like he had like in a way, like I kind of wanted to be like Eminem. You know what I mean? Like this is a guy who uh had nothing, and then like he made it, and now like everyone kind of like worshipped him, and like I thought that was so cool. You know what I mean? That like Eminem was like the ultimate like self development dude, because like before he was like anything, he his self esteem was like very low. He was a socially awkward dude. He he just had like so many struggles that he was able to overcome, and I just kept thinking like, if he can do it, I can do it too. And I don't know, man. Like there would just be songs I would listen to from him, like just and not like the songs that you would know. Like I'm not talking about like songs that everyone listens to, like "Not Afraid" or "Lose Yourself" or things like that. I mean, great songs, but just like there's like this one song, like I don't even think like it was in an album. He's like, people say that I'm a bad influence. Uh, I think the world's already mad. I'm just adding to it, or something like. Do you know that song? Like something like that.
I
And
recognize the lyrics. I'm just trying to place it
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
because I've listened to a lot of M. I have Infinite and
like
everything above unreleased
just
stuff.
like the outrage, like my words are like a dagger that stab you in the. Honestly, I can't think of the lyrics off the top of my head right now.
Hmm.
That
My
is
words are like a dagger with a jagged edge. They'll stab you in the head, whether you a
what
fag or les, homo, sex,
yeah,
maverick, or trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's
That one.
addressed hate fags. The answer is yes. That one. Yeah.
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 So like it's
Yeah.
I don't know, just like I respected the courage, like because the thing it's like you can't get no one can get away with saying that he did,
Mhm.
and I think that's so cool. Like and as a dude who didn't have courage, just seeing a person just basically say fuck you to everyone and do what he wants and get away with it, not only get away with it, but he was rewarded for it. Like to me, like made me want to be that kind of guy, not literally Eminem, but be the not give a fuck kind of dude who just does what I want, says what I want, and I will get away with it. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
that to me was like everything. Um, and then like later on, I kind of wanted to do it too, like with rap music, and that was like my own personal choice. And I mean, and then you guys heard my story with that like a couple hundred times. Like Keith basically like sat next to me for like 10, 11 years, like watching me go through this journey.
Yep.
He
So
watched the live action movie.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, it's been a hell of a journey, and it's gonna get crazier. Anyway,
Speaking
um,
of, what movies and TV shows would you say influenced your music the most? Like coming up, like when you started out, and
uh, I mean, personally, like I like superhero shit. Like I like to use their journeys and like look at the struggles and the battles that they go through, and I've always sort of used that as metaphors for like what we're going through. Daredevil has been a big one, not the Ben Affleck version, but the Charlie Cox version.
Oh yeah, that's
On
awesome.
yep,
on
yeah,
Netflix, I think that is a very powerful show. A lot of themes of spirituality, death and resurrection. Um, oh man, like this is not this question. Like I have I have so much I can like. I feel like there's so many movies and shows I can throw on there. Uh, but I just can't think. Okay, like Scarface, right? Like obviously, like
hmm
looking back, like Tony Montana is not a good role model. But again, like when I was a kid, it was like as a kid who was not confident in himself and watching someone like Tony Montana on TV, like the guy with like massive balls who was able to like do what he did, you know, like
yep,
was willing to get chainsawed, like like the way he would interact and talk to people and not giving a shit about the consequences. Um as a 12-year-old kid who was shy and socially awkward, like like that shit will affect you in a way, you know what I mean? Like the like watching
hmm
art like that. um
I'm gonna make you my tiger.
yeah, like no, like me as a
that
dude.
was confident. He did not like
oh
he was
god,
not giving him the time of day. He's like, I'm gonna make you my tiger.
You got the look in your eye that you haven't been fucked for a year. And like I'm like and like me as a 12-year-old guy who like couldn't talk to girls or anything like that, I'm like, yo, like holy shit, I want to be that guy. Like, you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, man. I think like, it depends on like the way art affects you is really a reflection of where you are in your life. And I think
Sometimes,
like,
yeah, I can see that.
yeah, and that's why I think like a lot of people, unfortunately, like they don't understand hip hop because uh if you're if you're living like in a very white rural town and like you've never seen like a black person in your life and you're listening to like, like an art form and listening to lyrics about the struggles of a particular community you know nothing about, yeah,
Mhm.
like chances are that like this music is not going to make any sense to you and you're going to hate it. um
Or you'll be one of those people that doesn't understand shit, but so desperately wants to be a part of that world because you think it's
Yeah.
cool.
Like a lot of the kids, well, not a lot of them, but like there's always the clique of middle class white kids in South Windsor who,
that want to be gangster.
yeah,
Yeah.
but basically they're just cosplaying as they go to Eblin's and get some shit, and then they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, I'm hood now. It's like, no.
But listen, shamefully, I was one of those guys. Like when I first got introduced to rap, like I remember
Mhm.
I used to fucking wear like, I used to fucking wear like baggy South Pole shirts. And I remember like, like back
Mhm.
then there was like those shirts that had like the golden, like, like font on it, and
Yes,
it would
yeah.
literally
Oh
like
yeah.
shine. Yeah, I used to wear shit like that, thinking I was so cool, and I would have like a
Mhm.
white gold, like a white South, like a white flat rimmed southpaw hat that was like in gold. Like I,
Mhm. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
but honestly, like, and it wasn't because like we wanted to be like gangsters. I just think that like, and even to those kids who were like trying to imitate that, like I think it was the same thing to them, but maybe like maybe a little different, but like they saw a bunch of dudes who were like hustlers, uh, and successful, like like,
Mhm.
and confident, and they wanted to be like that in some way. So like they wanted to imitate that, and I think that's why like rap resonates with people, because I think like with rap music, like especially with rap music, like it's basically like a genre of music that always like emphasizes how confident you are. You know, it's like a very hip hop specific thing, and I think like Farnoosh can agree that like it's always about how hard you are. It's always about how like successful, and like it's very hard to make like a successful rap song talking about how insecure you are and like and how broke and
Yeah.
depressed you are. I mean, like you could try, and like there are artists who do that, but it's like a own separate like subgenre. You know what I mean? And they have like their own they have like a separate like audience, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'm going to let one of you guys say something now, cuz I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Keith, you take it because we'll step away for hip hop for a moment. We'll give people a break
All right.
and then we'll come back.
Mine does include some hip hop, but
Yeah, no, that's fine.
yeah.
But from a perspective of someone that's not a rapper, it's
Right.
refreshing.
I got you. So I'll start out with music like Shaheen did, just to keep the theme going. Um so for me growing up, I had one older brother who blasted death metal and like Swedish black metal and hard rock at night to go to sleep, and another brother who blasted hip hop to go to sleep. And I had to fall asleep to that my entire youth, both of those things blaring at the same time at
Yeah.
night.
That's crazy.
So my music taste is a little interesting. There's not really any music I don't like, with a few exceptions. But growing up, I kind of listened to, I had heavy metal influence from that brother, another brother who listened to rap. My other brother listens to country and pop mostly growing up. And I kind of listened to everything. And my parents, they listen to, Springsteen and Fleetwood Mac and, everything that was there when they were growing up. And I think the only rap or hip hop artist, I should say, that my dad knew about growing up, because he grew up in the hood, if you will, but it was before hip hop was really a thing. He knew about Sugar Hill Gang, and that was about it. Like
Yeah.
that was the extent of his hip hop knowledge. Before that,
Yeah.
that's you still listen to rock even if you were in the projects, pretty much, or the
Yeah.
blues or jazz, whatever happened to be playing. But I would let's see, what's the first artist I would say that. So my first music video I actually ever saw was "My Name Is" by
Oh
Eminem
shit. Okay.
on MTV.
Nice.
Because I stopped watching Disney Channel when I was like 6. I started watching
Mm.
like MTV and VH1 when I was in like kindergarten, basically.
Right.
So I got educated on music at a young age, and like I used to play piano, violin, guitar. Um, I used to be like really into music alongside playing sports. And I think the first real artist that had an impact on me, like emotionally, would probably be Linkin Park,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
Um,
Linkin Park. Yeah.
so I got in 5th grade, I started my angst phase, if you will. Um, just teenage rebellion and depression and all the other shit that comes with, all that. So I got the Linkin Park Meteora CD, and I literally listened to it on the school ride to school, to into school and back every day of 5th grade. It just like spoke to me, and
Yeah.
um, it didn't really come into like sports as much until later on. Trying to think of what. Yeah, because I started like working out outside of just playing sports, um, before the summer before 8th grade, and I basically just listened to metal. Uh, Back then, I never really lifted to rap. When I was younger, that came a lot later. Um, but most of my stuff was like new metal, hard rock, and I don't really know all the subgenres, but basically just rock and metal.
Yeah.
Growing up, and that also kind of plays into some other stuff I'll get into with like movies and shit that influenced me. But later on, I started listening to hip hop more again. Um, I don't remember what there was like a certain album that came out by Eminem that like got me listening to hip hop again, and wasn't Encore, but yeah, regardless, um, started getting into that more, and then it was really in college that I started listening to more like basically everything. Once I got Spotify and they started making daily mixes for me, it was just like I started listening to underground hip hop. Then I had a mix for trap. Then I had a mix for um, boom bop, and like then a country mix, and then a metal mix, and it was just like listening to everything basically. And now I still listen to mostly underground and boom bap style most of the time when I'm at work just to stay awake
Mm-hmm.
because I'm at a computer for 8 hours straight. Um, but I think the thing it influenced in me was like metal helped me channel my anger into something. Hip hop did it in a way too, but not like it wasn't rage. It was like it inspired me more so.
I feel like with hip hop, and I know we're probably gonna talk about hip hop for throughout this episode,
Which is
but
fine.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I feel if we're all influenced by it in some way, but um, I feel like when it comes to channeling rage and like your darkness or emotions, whatever it is, like it's not in. I mean, yeah, there are rappers who do that, right? Like you have
Mhm.
people like Eminem, right? Or I would say like Tech Nine or
Yeah.
NF, right? Like these people, um, it's more underground and hidden, but I feel like it's just that like I feel like when it comes to emotional pain, uh, you don't for some reason we don't see that in hip hop. as much, as much, you know. So what you
Yeah.
say makes sense because if you want to like listen to like a song that will hit you in the feels or whatever it is, uh, they don't. I feel like hip hop is generally something you go to if you want to pump yourself up. Uh,
Mhm.
in like a more like you said, like inspirational, motivational, feel like a king, feel like a boss kind of thing, you know? Like that's I feel like hip hop has always been that.
Yeah. Like one of my songs for like my pre-workout that I used to listen to, like aside from I used to listen to like the X-Men animated series theme song to
Okay,
like get me
yeah.
pumped up to go to the gym. But
Okay.
also I forgot the actual name of it, but What More Can I Say by Jay-Z. It's on the Black
Mm-hmm.
album.
Mm-hmm.
And like the beginning of it, it has the uh soundbite from Gladiator, the movie, where it's like the entire stadium is chanting Spaniard at him after he
Mm-hmm.
like kills all the guys in the arena. And
Mm.
then it's just like the chanting and shit. And it was just like that gets me fucking amped. And then it goes into the song and you're just fucking ready to go. Um, but recently, like I've been listening to more to like Apathy, Necro, Gore-Tex, like all underground dudes who just like
Yeah.
it's like heavy, a lot heavier shit.
No, I feel you. I had the pleasure of
Than
meeting Apathy, so dope guy.
mhm,
The
nice,
picture's up on Instagram, I think. But yeah, it was a couple years back. Dope guy.
sweet.
Yeah, but I mean
uh,
even like even like those even like the underground community in hip hop that's more based in like based they're more lyrical, right? They're
Yeah,
more into lyricism. Even that stuff I don't uh and this is just me, my own opinion, but uh and obviously I say this as a rapper too, and it's like a weird place to be in, but I feel like they don't make again like they don't make songs that reveal like emotional vulnerabilities.
no,
Even
it's still like hard ass, like kind of being like
like I'm a tough guy, I can kill
yeah,
you in
it's
a
still like
rhyme
that,
type
but
of thing. Yeah.
it can still get you pumped up in a way, but it's
Right.
not
Right.
gonna be it's
Yeah.
not vulnerable at all. No, there's no
Right.
it depends what sector of underground hip hop you're listening to, because there's plenty of them that do. It's just again, whether or not you've been introduced to that subgenre or not. Like
mhm,
I could easily like list a bunch of people that have probably done emotional songs, and one
Oh,
big
they
one that
exist.
has a cult fan base, for example, Slug of Atmosphere. That
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah. Yeah.
all it is emotional. God rest his soul, rest in peace. Idea was
Yeah.
emotional.
okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, even to a certain extent, I mean, not that all his records are like that, but I mean, even if you go to Jedi Mind Tricks, there's usually one emotional track on each album that Vinny Paz is dropping. Now, granted, 90% of them are, like, I worship Allah and smack
Yeah, yeah.
crosses and shit, and pumps you up, and that's cool too. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, big JMT fan, but like at the same time, I just think that, um, you know, because hip hop has always been promoted as more of, or in recent years, it's been more promoted as a very um, bravado type of music, very masculine. That the expression of like depression, sad feelings, all that, it's not something
Mhm.
that they make because marketing doesn't push it. At the end of the day, especially that's why you don't hear a lot of it in mainstream music, in any kind of genre, really, except here and there you'll hear a drop from one. Even if you look at mainstream artists, if you look at their track listing, it'll have like one sad song, and the rest of them are some other shit. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if your audience is depressed, are they going to buy your music? No. I mean, like that's how at least the
They see it.
people who are signed or people who are marketing view it. They're trying to get stuff that makes people feel in a good mood, gets those endorphins pumping, that serotonin going, so that 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 you feel compelled to like buy the music. Like there are very few artists out there. If you could count them, you could probably, like off the top of your head, even though if there's more, you probably only can think of like a handful that their entire record is depressing or sounds depressing, and yet
Right.
they sell albums. So I think that in large part has something to do with it. It's not necessarily because like people don't want to write that kind of music. I mean, even when you look at your guy Eminem, Beautiful is very depressing, dude. It's uplifting, but it's depressing at the same time. The guy's talking about getting kicked while he's down and all that shit, and
No, you're not
and
gonna listen to that shit all the time. But I mean, like
yeah,
Eminem
exactly.
still has songs like where like I mean like his first like no not the first but the Marshall Mathers LP and even like the Slim Shady LP like those two albums are just pure rage, and people
Mm-hmm.
argue that those two albums were his best albums.
Yeah.
Like the Marshall Mathers, the song Marshall Mathers or Kim, where he's like killing his wife, or uh, like the
It was
way I
always
am,
interesting.
the way I
Yeah.
am, like like just the way he like first of all the way the flow is like broken up is like incredible in that song. Like, oh my god, I get that like just like but just like you can hear the it's funny. I heard the demo of the like the of Kim, not like the song from the actual album, but like the demo version of that song, and you
Mm-hmm.
could just hear like he's even like angrier in the demo, and I'm like, yo, like even though like the message of the song, like obviously bad, don't kill your wife, but it's like you feel it, like you feel that pain, and like I think like that's what makes it so attractive, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
In a different way too. Like there's a song that fucks me up. There's a reason I don't listen to it anymore. Like it used to come up in my playlist and I kind of stopped it from coming up, but it's called Happy Birthday. It's by Flipside.
Oh, I know that song.
That song fucks
Yeah.
me up every time I hear it. It's basically a song about a guy wishing happy birthday to his aborted son or daughter that would have been. It's like it's so fucking, oh my god, it fucks it. Yeah.
And I think they released that as a single too, and it didn't do this so well, even though it's a great song. For that
Hmm.
same reason, it
Yeah.
probably depressed the fuck out of people. They tuned out to it the way that you tuned out to it because it hit a certain nerve.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why a lot of times, if it's not done tastefully or it hasn't done in a certain manner, or you don't inject some kind of rage into it, I guess they don't promote more melancholy, sad music. But that's
Hmm.
listen.
But I
So
think
you were saying how it influenced you, like all that. I think before we kind of cut off into that
Oh
tangent.
yeah. So shit, where did I leave off on that? So basically now I listen mostly to like metal rock and underground rap is basically what I listen to now. And then if I want to calm down, I listen to indie folk. I recently discovered that genre. So it's like get pumped up with the other shit and then calm down with little indie folk and bluegrass tends to do the trick.
Hmm.
Um it's something that I never expected I would like actually, just because like the banjo twangy stuff, like when I was younger, I never listened to. But kind of chills you out. And as far as other influences like movies and music, I was also pretty heavy into superhero stuff. Especially when I was younger, the X-Men. That was a big one for me.
the original cartoon series,
Yeah, the original
the
cartoon
90s,
series. Like I didn't really know about the Avengers until until basically the movies came out. They weren't really like a team of superheroes that I knew about. I basically had the X-Men and the Justice League, and that was like what I had to go off of. And with the X-Men, there was something about Colossus I always liked as a character.
that's an interesting pick.
because the way I was when I grew up, and Shaheen can kind of attest to this, people were kind of scared of me in a way. Um, I was one of those kids who was like kind of weirdly athletic and like physically strong at a very young age, and I didn't know my own strength. So like there was something about Colossus like transforming into this like indestructible metal man who could like move mountains that like for me it was like this guy's like me in a way. Um and like he also can relate to that.
Plus,
Like
he was like a gentle giant too, in a way.
and he was yeah. And I mean I'm a gentle dwarf, but still it's it works. Um and like I liked Wolverine, but not for the same reasons. For me, Wolverine was like if I actually unleashed myself,
You'd be like Wolverine,
it was like
Weapon X. You would
yeah,
be
it was like
Weapon
if I
X.
allowed myself to like fully embrace my rage,
Then you would turn into Fanuc.
then I would yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Um um and then like with the Justice League, I mean my favorite DC character is Black Adam, who's like technically an anti-hero, but I liked the Justice League because it was it was like they saved the day, but it was almost like they could always lose too. So it was like a lot of things it's like the hero wins and it's just like of course the hero was going to win. With that it was like oh, Superman just got his ass kicked by this guy. Oh shit. like um and as far as like movies because TV shows when I was younger I didn't really watch that much outside of like I watched stuff on VH1 and MTV, but that's like reality TV, so it didn't really resonate with me in any way as much. It was just kind of entertainment. But one that really influenced me in kind of my perception of the world, how things are, um, and it kind of goes back to when I would be in mass in church. I would read instead of listening to the priest or reading the Bible, I would literally be reading like He-Man comics
Mm.
and like shit like that, where it was this like very different perception of like a godlike figure.
Right.
And then um
Wait, who is this? He-Man?
He-Man.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
He's also
Masters of the Universe.
yep, Masters of the Universe. Um Kicked Superman's ass a couple times. In the comics at least. But there was like a certain stoic barbarian-esque aesthetic that I kind of got used to. And then when I saw Conan for the first time, not Conan O'Brien, but Conan the Barbarian, um, there was a certain thing about like the way he lived, the way he expressed himself. It was like the sardonic, stoic, like
Right.
very measured masculinity, kind of you could say
No, I got
that um, I kind of resonated with me, and not that I modeled myself after Conan, but
you. Yeah.
he was kind of like a role model in a sense that like I looked up to as a that's a good way to put it. Kind of like the measure of how someone should be, like physically fit. You're not begging the gods for favors constantly. You kind of do your own shit and get stuff done on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And if the gods don't help you, then fuck them. And that's kind of been my philosophy to a certain extent as well. And that's why even
Kratos.
yeah, well, yeah, Kratos also for similar reasons is also
Yeah.
an inspiration to me.
You
That's
know,
part of why.
back.
That's part of my like my Instagram. My quote on my Instagram is literally, "Pain is a lesson, pleasure is a crutch," and I kind of got that philosophy from characters like that.
there's characters like Wolverine, Kratos, and a lot of these characters are actually it's like a archetype almost, a certain masculine archetype that I wouldn't necessarily say is positive masculinity because these dudes have like raging depression and a lot of it don't take it out in a healthy way. I think we can agree with that. Like
Mm.
Wolverine, Kratos, uh, the Punisher, uh, the main character from The Last of Us,
Oh
uh,
yeah, Joel.
Joel. Yeah, like these
Yep.
characters are all the same, like personality wise. Like I mean, like their struggles are like slightly different. Well, actually, Kratos and Wolverine are almost the same, but they all have the same personality. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Where it's like I don't know how to explain it. Um, but you know what I mean. More they're probably like a little bit more quiet, but uh more they also have like this let me just live in the woods kind of leave me alone kind of I don't know. I don't know how to explain describe that personality, but there's so many more characters like that. Um, I don't know if you can think of any more, but yeah, and I feel like Keith, like those characters tend to be like characters you also happen to really like too.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are. Yeah. Like ideally, yeah, I'd like to be left alone. Maybe in the woods, maybe in a frozen tundra. You know. I I don't know. There's just something about the self reliance, the um, not necessarily the not needing other people, but the ability to exist on your own without outside influences like fucking your life up. Um, that just I don't know. I like it. That's
that's one thing, but I'm talking about just not just what they're interested in, but like just their personality, the way they interact with people.
yeah. I mean, that's how I kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not that like severe as they are, but
yeah.
I kind
That's
of
a good
interact
thing.
with the world in a similar way. Um,
Yeah,
I'm generally pretty reserved. You know,
yeah,
more observant than anything. Like it's not that I'm quiet or shy. It's just like
yeah.
most of the time, if there's nothing to talk about, I won't talk. Like I like small talkish kind of shit or like you know dramatic stuff. It doesn't. I don't see the
Or
need for it.
even Thor, and he's in. I mean, he's more goofy now because Marvel made him that way recent as of the last few years. But
Yeah.
like he kind of in a way has that personality too. Um, in Infinity War, he was kind of like that because of the loss that he went through. I would say he was kind of like that a little bit in the first few Thor movies, also.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's
so
kind of why he was. That's part of the reason why he was my favorite, like MCU character. It wasn't just because he's like the God of Thunder. It was just like his progression, kind of. I kind of went along with that same theme. It was like the entire way it was him learning that like him being a god didn't mean shit. He still had to put in the work. Um, seeking like outside pleasures, like in the beginning of the first one, it's like he's getting Odin makes him his heir. He has this massive feast. He's drinking, and then he brings himself low from that pleasure, and that kind of like it didn't prove my rule, like the pain is less than pleasure is a crutch motto thing, but it kind of I don't know, it fits into that same mindset that I have kind of.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's that's cool. It's cool. Um, no, I like Thor. I think Thor is I think there's interesting things to say about masculinity, like to observe and learn. Some observations to be made in regards to masculinity when it comes to Thor.
Mhm.
There's a certain archetype with him. Uh,
Thor's
some
whole
goods.
story is a coming of age. It
Yeah,
really is. Even though, he's obviously presented as an older, you know, man, or like at least a man in his prime.
Yeah.
Really, that's because gods live for thousands and thousands and millions of years, or however long Thor's been on the planet. By
Mhm.
Asgardian standards, he's still a very young, immature person when we follow him on his journey, and when we watch him evolve, be it in the comics or be it on the MCU films, you're really watching a young, immature man learn what it is like to accept responsibility and embrace um, what it is that he's meant to become, which eventually will be King of Asgard. He has to learn, how to interact with people in order to be a great, better ruler. Which
Mhm.
before he was with the Avengers, he wasn't exactly a team player. Learned how to
No.
he learned how to work with a team that isn't his lackeys, like the three guys in Asgard that are respectively of their own. They're great fighters, but they're not like exactly supernatural human beings or people on his level. He's never met somebody that had the well, I guess the Avengers in different ways had different attributes that were greater than his in those areas. And he learned, to work with other people. He also learned um, how, you know, I mean, as a god, you're probably not used to getting knocked down on your ass, and it would depress the fuck out of you, thinking, "Oh yeah, I thought I was untouchable." But he learned to rise up again. He learned the importance of being able to overcome adversity, even
Mhm.
as an elevated being. Just a bunch of things like that. You watch his growth, and I think that's the fascinating thing about Thor is even like you said, even a god has to put in the work to actually become a god.
Yeah. And reforge himself after loss. Like that's
Right.
it's a similar theme in like Conan with the riddle of steel idea, where basically the harder his life becomes, the stronger he becomes. That's the like the original theme for the books and at least the Arnold movies. Um,
Or at least the barbarian movie. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah, the
Warrior movie
Destroyer. They kind of made
great
it more
too.
like Dungeons and Dragons ish, and it was kind of weird, but um, yeah, yeah. At least in the original idea for like I think the Destroyer book is a little different. Like it's not quite that campy, but there's like the Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and then I think it's like King Conan is the third one.
I think
But
so. And you know what that was supposed to be? The movie called The Conqueror was supposed to be the third one, but they couldn't get Conan.
oh,
I think there
okay.
was some issues with the rights to Conan at the time, and they also couldn't get Arnold, so they got
Hmm.
I think it was Kevin Sorbo, the guy that
Oh, the
um,
Hercules guy.
the Hercules guy.
Yep.
He played, but he wasn't called Conan, obviously. And they kind of altered the movie, so it's kind of like the third Conan, but it's not. But that was actually the archetype of that movie was actually meant to be the third Conan movie. But
Oh, all right. I never saw it.
you know, whatever. It is what
Yeah.
it is. It's called the Conqueror.
Oh
And I'm
shit.
guessing that that had to do with somewhat with you getting that image of getting that sculpted up physique of yours, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was always pretty physically fit. Like ever since I was like even a little kid, I had like defined biceps and calves already, like as a child. So it wasn't like that far of a stretch for me to be like uh jacked, I guess. Um, and I've played sports my whole life, and that's less to do with art, I guess. I mean, you could say uh, athletic performance is a form of art, but um, I basically did soccer and basketball, lacrosse, baseball. Um, High school, I did wrestle. I mean, I did martial arts since I was from like years old to eighth grade. I did Jiu-Jitsu and karate. Um, did wrestling in high school, one season of football, and then I played rugby in college. Like that's shaped me in a way, but it's not yeah, it's outside of the scope of this, but yeah, it's
Oh, I mean, however it influenced you, I mean, it makes you the person that you are today. So, you know, if
yeah.
that's
I
what,
mean, music certainly helped sculpt the body, but because without channeling the rage that way, I don't know if I'd be quite as fit as I was.
the
You know
eight
what's
pack
funny?
of bricks that you carry around.
Yeah.
I got a one pack, but it's a very big pack.
Oh god. Yeah. Well, in high school, I used to strap like 50 pounds of weight to myself to do pull-ups um, during like wrestling season and shit like that. Should probably start
Oh
doing that
man,
again because quarantine's got me not in the best shape.
I would have
But
tried out for the wrestling team to be honest, amateur wrestling and Greco-Roman, but my school didn't have a team, so
oh no.
I was kind of stuck on a school that didn't have a team, and I'm like, fuck, man, really? I think my grades would have been a whole lot better if there was a wrestling team so I could have joined it. Because yes, I did watch pro wrestling, but I also knew what
Hmm.
amateur wrestling was. You know, it's kind of ingrained in my Iranian culture. You know,
Right.
that's like the
Yeah.
national sport, as Iron Sheik likes to call it. Wrestling, oldest sport in the world. Iran, oldest country in the world. You know, like,
Yeah.
Right.
but like it's ingrained in our culture. So like, I already knew what that stuff was, and I messed around with it as a kid, and I was really interested. But
Mhm.
I went to a school that did have a fucking wrestling team, and I'm like, what kind of shit is this? I want to slam some people,
Right.
but back then I didn't have the one pack. I had, I was pretty. I mean, I wasn't jacked, but I was fit. I was slim, so
Mhm.
like, I definitely wasn't a weak individual either. So yeah, I could have done well in wrestling, especially knowing some people that actually knew techniques. I probably might have done, fairly well, but I'll never know because we didn't have a wrestling team. Thank you, Taft High School. Other than having Ice Cube as among your alumni, um,
Oh
you
shit.
know, um, among other people. Um, like Everlast, who Eminem fucking destroyed, but he's also alumni at my high school. But
Oh shit. Okay.
yeah, that's
Wait,
okay. I'll forgive you for not having a wrestling team.
wait. All right.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah,
Eminem did destroy Everlast. Like that wasn't even close. That was brutal. Brutal takedown. Second of all,
yeah.
Everlast went to your school.
Not when I went there, but yeah, he's alumni. He went to Taft High School. Yeah,
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
yeah.
Shit.
So is Ice Cube.
Oh,
So
really? I didn't know
yeah,
that. That's dope. That's dope.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple.
Wrestling's definitely a. It's good, and I guess people say the same thing about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Kind of like when you start, as long as you can get through like the mental lapse of being like bad at something for long enough, it's really like it's not just physically active. Like, yeah, you get in great shape during like wrestling season was probably the best shape debatably I've ever been in. Um, but the mental strength you learn by just like keeping going even after you're getting your ass kicked like every day when you're starting, just yeah, it's I think it's good for you. You got to get your ass kicked by somebody at some point. Uh,
Facts.
yeah. And
Again, I was.
by the time I was a senior in high school, I was like I think I was ranked 10th in Connecticut at my weight class, which is I was at 135, so it's a pretty competitive one.
That's not
Um,
bad at all.
so I was like, yeah, I mean, I've only been doing it for 4 years, so that's pretty damn good.
I wish that is pretty good. But like I said, I wish I would have had a wrestling team on my school. Had I had a
Yeah.
wrestling team on my school, I wouldn't have done some cool ass shit like do pro wrestling moves on the street and tombstone pile driver someone's head into a concrete floor. Yeah,
Oh shit.
yeah, that or
Yeah, that's
drop
not good.
someone on the edge of the pool and nearly damage their rib cage. But I
Oh shit.
was yeah, I did some experimenting with. I will say this: do not try pro wrestling moves at home. They are not
Oh
joking
no.
when they say that on TV because if you really apply those moves the way that they're supposed to be applied, a lot of them are what they call shooting, which means it's actually real moves and that real
Hmm.
wrestlers and UFC fighters and mixed martial artists know, and you can really break something. You know,
Oh
some
yeah.
of them are fake, obviously. I mean, like, they put you up, and like some of the stupid variations of the arm bars that they do is fake. But
Mhm.
like, for example, I try to put a figure four leg lock on a kid that Ric Flair's signature move. Woo! Shout out to the Nature Boy. And let me tell you, if you lock that in correctly, your kneecap will probably pop within 10 seconds. It's not a joke. Some of these moves, especially the ones from
Mhm.
the old school wrestlers, because they weren't so used to doing these flashy things that kind of look more fake, they're
Yeah.
real and they can jack you up. Like I said, I dropped a kid head first, and there's techniques to do them that make them safe because it's more like an choreographed. But if you do them the wrong way, like I said, I dropped a kid straight on his head on a concrete floor, and I shit you not, I was scared for my life for like 5 or 10 seconds before he got up, cried, and ran to his mommy because I I didn't realize it. I was just being stupid as a kid at the time. But honestly,
Mhm.
I thought when it happened, I broke this kid's neck. I thought this kid
Yeah.
was paralyzed and not getting up. And I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna go knock on my parents' door. They're gonna sue the shit out of me. But he got up, he started crying. Once he walked around, and I realized they just had a bump on the noggin, I was like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
jail.
I had something similar where I put one of my friends in high school in a rear naked choke, and I didn't realize how quickly blood chokes like can knock someone out. I thought it was like, you gotta hold it for a while. So I put it in, and I was like, just let me know when it's too much. And I was just like, you good? I just felt him go limp in my hand. I was just like,
Mhm.
fuck.
Oh yeah, that happened too.
He fell out of his chair. Like I caught him, and then he woke up like 30 seconds later. But I was like, fuck.
Oh, my friends and I would do a lot of
Yeah.
stuff all the time. I had another friend who put the sleeper hold, the one that the cops are banned from using for
Oh yeah. Yep.
years now. And just like you, put him in, and he let him go, and because he passed out. But the scary part was afterwards, he's on the floor and he starts convulsing, like
Yeah.
literally, like he's like we thought the kid was gonna foam at the mouth. We picked him up so that like he wouldn't swallow his tongue and stuff, and he
Mhm.
stopped shaking, and then he woke up and he's like, well, "Yo, what happened?" It was like he had a seizure, and
Yeah.
like, no, you're good, you're good. But like, I don't know if he was really good, but we were telling him he was good because at least he woke up, he was conscious and moving. But
Yeah.
yeah, do not mess with those moves at home.
No.
I guarantee
No.
you, they will mess somebody up.
Yeah. Like at least when I was doing wrestling moves and somebody was like choking, like
Yeah,
they
tap.
know to tap, or like I know what pressure I'm applying because I've had it done to me. But
Hmm.
like that, like I have never done a rear naked choke like really before, so it was like completely new, and the kid didn't know like when to tap, so it was like,
Can happen to anyone. Hulk Hogan
yeah.
did it to David Belzer, the actor David Belzer, the guy that's on Law and Order, the nerdy looking guy,
Oh, really?
like 30 years ago. And he put him, they were on a talk show. You can actually watch this on several documentaries. He lightly put him in a choke, and he doesn't know his own strength. It's Hulk Hogan, Mr.
Yeah.
24-inch
Yeah.
pythons. What you gonna do? Eat your vitamins? And he was just put him in lightly, and he let him go, and the guy just dropped to the floor. Like what happened with you? Except he didn't catch him. He ended up trying to sue Hulk Hogan, and the whole
Oh
reason this
shit. Okay.
happened
Yeah.
was he accused him for saying the sport was fake, but then what happened was, back then you had to protect the business. So he did the move for real, and he's just figuring, oh yeah, like I'm gonna release him. I haven't done enough to knock him out. Yeah, he's just gonna feel dizzy. He just dropped to the floor like a sack of potatoes, and then he started bleeding from his head. So it was just like,
Fuck.
yeah, don't fuck with that stuff. Don't
Yeah.
do that at home, kids, or anybody else who's watching for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're going to get proper training first,
Yes, by all
yeah.
means. Yeah,
All right, guys. All right, so we're gonna wrap this episode up.
yeah.
Um,
We'll do my influences later.
oh fuck. Yeah. All right. All right, we're running out
Yeah.
of time, but
How
yeah.
dare you, Shaheen?
All right. Actually, yeah. All right, dude. Why don't you tell us some of your biggest influences artistically, whether that's rap music or uh whatever it may be.
Sure, I'll keep it concise. So, some of the people watching know, some of them don't. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've lived out in LA for a very long time now, but my background is there. So when I was growing up, I actually did see breaking when breaking was really a thing, and it was all over the place, not just some underground cult thing that b boys do now at these dive bar shows or like at certain conventions. Like this was done on mainstream TV. It was done on the street. People had cardboards on street corners and doing all that stuff. I didn't even know what it is. I used to ask my mom, "What are they doing?" She's like, "Breakdancing." I'm like, "What's that?" I don't see dancing like that. She's like, "Oh, those are like street performers. That's how they dance." And she didn't even really wasn't educating on what b-boying and breaking is either. She just kind
Right.
of knew what it was. So that was her explanation. Only later on, when I got into hip hop, was I did I really become educated on what this stuff is. But I thought that, I knew that it had to do with something that was also related to rap music. And I knew what rap music was, but so that was cool too. And, saw graffiti art. So it was already introduced into my day to day, everyday life. Fast forward, um, you know, I'm probably in my early teens now, hanging out with friends. And I'd heard rap music before, don't get me wrong. Prior to that, I listened to a lot of stuff that was being listened in my car, like maybe soft rock or maybe R&B, you know, um, all sorts of type of music because, I guess my parents would listen to whatever's on the radio, so we weren't tied to any particular kind of genre. But as I started going, in my early teens, I started listening to hip hop. I knew what rap music was, but at the same time, I wasn't at the point where I know that rapper. I know that rapper. The only person that I really kind of knew about, like that was kind of like, I mean, I knew groups and a couple of names of songs, but the first person that I actually really started listening to, and this is embarrassing as fuck, but I mean, like, hey, it is what it is. Uh, the first person who actually owned a rap album was MC Hammer. Okay,
Mm.
and this was mainstream as mainstream gets. Like this guy's in parachute pants, and this will tell you how old I am. This guy's doing the little can't touch this dance, and you know I was listening to that, but then I don't know, maybe a year or two into that, I'm listening to this, and my friends are like, check this stuff out. Now, granted, I had heard songs from NWA, and and music from around that time, and East Coast music like rock and all that, but I wasn't familiar. There were just songs that I had heard. The first time I really started getting familiar, like I said, my friends would introduce me. Um, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, Warren G's Regulate, because I'm here on the West Coast at the time. Um, by this time, I'm listening to Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style, pretty much almost everything that came out of Death Row, and that was when the road was running stuff. That's when I became, and I listened to Easy E obviously too, but I had listened to him more as a solo artist first before I revisited NWA because he was on his solo tip when I really started listening. Um, so I started writing. I thought I could do this too. My first, my first rap records, honestly, as I could call them, were actually parodies, and they were disses to my friends who told me I couldn't. Um, and um and and probably the only other song besides those was one of my first was also a parody. It was on Gangster's Paradise. This song's racist as hell. I don't want it to like resurface um like Eminem's N-word tapes. I didn't do anything like that, but I mean, like, I made fun of the life of a 7-Eleven worker, so it was Hindu's paradise instead of Gangster's
Oh
paradise.
shit.
And I did it in the Indian voice, the Apu voice.
No.
Yes. So yeah, granted, people's sense of humor back then was a little different,
Oh shit.
but
Mhm. Yeah.
nowadays that would be considered some cancel culture shit. And I apologize to any Indian people that I would have offended with that. I was merely trying to impersonate Apu, but it'd be funny. But It is what it is. Um, but mostly what I had was gangster rap. And that's what I modeled
Mhm.
my early writing after. I want to say I got to high school, and I don't know, sophomore, junior year, 97, 98. Yes, I'm an old guy. Um, and this dude introduces me and to cannabis.
Ah,
And cannabis is not was then not the artist back then that a lot of people know today, or even were introduced to in the late 2000s when they duck up as underground shit. Cannabis in 96, 97 was a beast. And granted, he's still a different kind of beast today,
mhm.
but it was different. Nowadays, he's on some very intellectual, deep stuff, and a lot of stuff that has to do with conspiracy theories, governments, societal issues, that kind of thing. Cannabis in '97 was just a mixtape murderer. He was Eminem before there was an Eminem,
Mhm. Yeah, he be
and
fucking wild too.
in the sense that anything that you put this guy on, with any MC that you put him on, he stole the show. Um, And the reason I really got into cannabis was because someone told me when they were looking at my rhymes, "You're a dope writer, but this isn't you." And I'm like, "What do you mean this isn't me?" It's like, dude, I know that you're not a pushover. I know that you're not a pussy or anything like that, but you didn't grow up in South Central, and you don't slang rock, and you don't do this. It's like you could write about it, sure, but like, is that really you? No one's gonna, when you decide to perform this one day, no one will take you seriously. Start writing about your own life experiences and start learning the technical aspect on how rhyming and lyrics work and songwriting works. And Cannabis was probably the first person I listened to that could be technical, lyrical. Granted, I'll tell you, he's not the best songwriter. I learned that from other people like Pac and so forth. But again,
A lot of
he
battle
was the
rappers
first
aren't.
person I listened to that didn't exude this gangster image, but
Yeah,
he was still raw as hell. And
yeah,
he honestly did not give two fucks. You know, it was his strength, and it was also his detriment, because that's what ended up getting him blackballed to a certain degree, so to speak. He had the arrogance to go after somebody who had great leverage in the game. I still think to this day, one on one in a battle, he did actually beat him. And I'm not referring to Eminem, I'm referring to LL. Um, but LL, and even when you listen to interviews retrospect 20 years later, a lot of other people in the industry will tell you that um, LL pulled strings that in essentially helped keep cannabis down after that. But that's another story. Basically, and my evolution reason, okay, so I like cannabis for his lyricism. I like the fact that he wasn't exactly the stereotypical gangster rapper talking about guns and shooting stuff. He was focused on wordplay, punchlines. um, he has a very angry voice, and that evokes something in me. But it also told me that you can be yourself on a track
absolutely.
before, without having to exude this persona, which to this day rappers do on the radio, and still make good music. He also influenced me in different ways. He influenced me on certain decisions on not how not to interact with people in the music industry. You can sometimes you can watch someone and they make mistakes and you learn from their mistakes. I also believe the way he marketed himself was very poor. He made some very bad decisions because let's face it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to make a parallel between him and Eminem, um, but he was on the same trajectory before certain shit derailed him. He made some wrong decisions where Eminem made some correct decisions with the mentoring of Dre.
Exactly. I think
Um,
with Eminem, like just the fact that he had like his team behind him was everything.
Yeah,
No, yeah,
and but
obviously, yeah,
and here's a guy that was doing it on his own. So I respect him for maintaining his morals. Like in and sticking to his morals to a certain point. And he influenced me, in a lot of my writing style. Um, the one thing I like in particular about what he does um, is he will take words that are not supposed to rhyme at all if you looked at them on paper, and he'll make them rhyme.
yeah,
His enunciation is is like is like it's unlike anybody else. He can enunciate words like crazy, and it's probably the only person on in hip hop on earth that I'm not going to say makes better songs than Eminem, because let's face it, Eminem is a better songwriter, but his vocabulary is larger than Eminem's.
yeah,
That being said, there are other influences I had, hip hop wise. I could go through a list, but he influenced me to be myself on a record, kind of like Eminem influenced you to be yourself on a record. Um, and as far as film and um, and all that, I'm influenced. I like Carlito's Way.
that's a great
I'm
movie.
a very big on Carlito's Way. I also like Scarface,
Yeah,
simply because of the rags to riches and how someone from nothing can come to something.
right.
Um, um, Not necessarily the way that he did it, but the fact that um, that this guy, like, he could easily just been a bum, but he believed in himself to the point where he pushed himself to make it. Carlito's Way is always that struggle that I feel like between you know the life that I live. It's like sometimes I'd like to live a more calmer, peaceful life, but always feel like I'm being dragged back into the exciting realm of like hip hop and drama and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
There's that dynamic. I love a Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange is just it's an interesting take on what society would have been like by an author whose viewpoint was how that might have looked if the Soviets took over. It's an old book. They made a film out of it. Obviously, the book was banned from England for the longest time, and Kubrick made the film. But I just feel like, and it still has, it's still relevant today in many ways on how it depicts problems in society. And then overall, a lot of these things just influenced me because, look, for different reasons, I'm not going to say that I wasn't the popular guy, but, well, I wasn't the popular guy, but I wasn't like an outcast either. I was somewhere in between. I don't even think I had a regular clique of people that I hung out with. I was always with one group one day, one group the next. I was always drawing influences, but most of the time, the stuff that I was doing, I'd keep to myself. And I always kind of just, I did stuff like you. I did sports. I'm not gonna say I was terrible at sports, but I wasn't a star. Sometimes I was more like the goon. If you ever watched that, the
Yeah,
guy
because
that you
yeah,
send in there when you want to, injure somebody.
yep,
So, not intentionally, but I've been guilty of some stuff like that. Um,
yep.
but the one thing I will say was I wasn't very social. Like with
Mhm.
people like yourselves, like once you get to know me, I talk a lot, and sometimes you can't get me to shut the hell up. But I generally am very selective of who I talk to, even to this day, but for different reasons. Obviously, when an artist, there's different reasons that are at play. But I just like you know, I connecting with people on certain topics, and just I wouldn't say I was the most social person, and hip hop helped me in a number of ways. Um, if we're gonna talk about the influence,
You
it
definitely
helped
have
me
to say.
basically when it comes down to public speaking, because I got to do a lot of stuff when it comes to meeting now, and I speak in public. That helped me because if you can rock on a crowd on stage as an MC, talking to 10 people in your workplace is nothing. It taught me to speak up because the same way that I put my emotions out on my records, if I see something at work or in society, I'll say something because you know hip hop is kind of the voice of the voiceless. It was you know a it is a social movement, and it was born from rebellion. So
I
when you
feel
see
that.
injustice and things like that, I feel compelled to speak on it. A lot of that has to do with hip hop, and a lot of the movies that I watch. Also, the book and the movie. Well, coincidentally, I'd like the book better, obviously, but Malcolm X. I know that's one of yours too, Shane. Love that book.
Hmm.
Anything that's by Robert Greene, but basically all these things helped me become more confident because there were parts of my life where I felt okay, but parts of life where I didn't feel like I had the best grip on stuff. And then I had a lot of I don't want to say I'm crazy, but I have issues. I don't want to phrase them as psychological issues, but I think they're things that a lot of normal people go to. I just didn't have the right coping mechanisms.
Hmm.
Being able
Yep.
to listen to other people's art as well as influence me to create my own art helped me cope and deal with those issues. So
Hmm.
uh, that's it. I mean, like, I'm gonna try and keep it at that because I know we've got a time frame and some people got to go to sleep, but on the East Coast, but try to keep it as concise as possible by giving as much as I can.
All right,
Yeah,
yeah,
you actually got into some stuff that like I forgot to talk about, but that's all good. Like
yeah. If we
similar story in terms of lack of click and kind of just like doing my own thing.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, and then like in future episodes, I think we can like talk more and get into more detail about things like that.
Oh yeah, I'll
100%.
definitely. I gotta have a whole episode about why I'm into Wolverine because that's
Yeah,
a whole.
for real.
Let's
Like,
just say that to keep it short, Wolverine is a character that other people try to manipulate into a living weapon. They try to manipulate
Mhm.
his life. They try to control him. They try to tell him what he should be. And a lot of his life is filled with the guilt of what he should be. And his story is basically of a man that says, your past does not define your future. You can have all this shit and this baggage in your life, but it doesn't define who you are and who you will be. Because ultimately, even though he deals with that rage, Wolverine is still trying to control it and become a better person as life progresses and become a better, family member in terms of the X-Men because his family and just a better human being through his acts and the code that he goes by now. So that's the short of it.
right.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, all right, guys. Thanks you for if you listen to this far, thank you. We love you. Tune in for next week and the week after and the week after. We got more dope shit coming up. Once
Including
again,
more guests.
yes. So
Hey.
hit the thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe, bell notification, bell icon, all that good shit. And we'll see you next week.
Shout out to
Yep.
Leon, by the way. It was his birthday. He's a devoted watcher, so I give him that shout out.
This is birthday.
It was his birthday yesterday.
Oh, word! Happy birthday, Leon.
Happy birthday, man.
All right,
And comment and DM us questions if you got them. Go for it.
it's good.
We're always
And
here.
tell us which Shaw you'd like to date for Valentine's Day.
If you're a woman,
Oh shit.
if you have a vagina. All right,
uh,
all right. Take it, guys. Peace
All
out.
right.